Hi guys, welcome back to Otter's RC Garage. Today we are out in the garage again. It's a little cold out, so I got the heaters running, and also I'm all bundled up. But today we're working on the Redcat Gen 8. So this here is our Redcat Gen 8, a big bright green beast. This thing has been a pretty tried and true and reliable workhorse for basically new guys that have come with us and needed something to drive. Today we're gonna give this guy a new purpose in life. I do have a trailer and we sort of need a tow rig. The tow rig that I was planning on using was my Bronco, and it does work just fine, but it does squat it a bit, and honestly it usually is probably one of the ones that we're going to be getting towed because of breaking down or rolling. So this is going to become our new tow rig. Part of what makes a good tow rig is traction. And as you can see, we just have these skinny little Duratraxes right now, which work great for crawling and going through trails, but it's not going to work great for what we wanted to do, at least not right now. So new tires are going to be in order, but that's not going to be our only solution. This here is going to be our solution. So what you might not be able to tell, this is another Redcat Gen 8. I got this offline. It does seem to have, not sure, something. There's wires in there, so I'm sure there's some sort of electronic in there, but I'm not sure what. But this is a very stripped down roller. No tires, no servos, no electronics, no motor. It does have the transmission. It has all the drive shafts. It has the transfer case. It's got the axles and all the links. It's got some good shocks. None of them seem to be leaking. They all seem to be nice and good. Differentials all seem good. So how this is going to help us is we are actually going to be stealing this, the rear differential. Not only the rear differential, but we're going to be stealing the links, the drive shafts most likely, and the frame rails. And we are going to make a Gen 8 6x6. So a Gen 8 6x6, as far as I know, has never been done. I have seen a Gen 7 6x6, one or two of them actually, but not a Gen 8 yet. And I think I know the main reason why. These frame rails, as you can see, they go from skinny to fat and then back to skinny. So it makes it really hard to extend this chassis without coming up with completely custom rails, which at that point you're going pretty far in, and most people just don't do that with these Redcats. A lot of people do them with the Traxxas because they've already been built with the 6x6, and a lot of people do it with the Axial because they've already been built with a 6x6. So naturally you already have a frame that is built that long. The other reason that a lot of people don't make these into a 6x6 is the axles themselves. The axial housings, you can actually take the front half and bolt another front half to, and have your rear shaft coming out. The Traxxas ones, they have a special cover for the TRX6 already that has an output shaft right in the center of the diff housing going to the rear shaft. So that's another thing that we're gonna have to overcome on this. I do have a plan for that, so stay tuned and we'll figure out how we're gonna power that far rear axle, because this is going to be a full live 6x6, all three axles powered. First thing we're gonna want to do is basically tear this thing apart, but we got to have a plan for tearing this thing apart. After looking at it, I think my best bet is to get it stripped down to the frame rails, get it so that the rear suspension, I'm going to try and leave it as much together as I can. I'll probably take these upper shock towers and that chassis brace off separate, but I want to leave the shocks, the rear axle, and all the links, and maybe the drive shaft all together with it. I'm going to take some measurements just to see how far forward from like the shock mount is to where the first link is, and even where the second link, bottom link is, just so that when I mount up this rear axle I can maybe mimic that unless stuff gets in the way. But so I'm not 100% sure this is gonna work. We're gonna do a couple of videos building this thing, so make sure you guys stay tuned. First thing we're gonna do is start taking parts off. I think first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this battery tray off. I'm gonna start from there, taking the transmission and the drive shaft off, and next will be getting the transfer case off, and that should leave us with about the bare minimum. We're gonna end up taking the bumpers off. I'll take the mounts and everything for front and rear, and see about getting these side skirts off, so we're down to just the frames and the links and the axles. All right, so we got a lot of the fluff taken off of this truck. This is the donor truck, of course. So the side little fender skirts or whatever, the rear bumpers off, and everything else, battery tray. So I wanted to show you guys sort of how this truck was set up now that it is more bare. So as I was explaining, you can see now how these frame rails, they start out skinny up front here, and then they widen up and then go back skinny. So, and also another thing with this frame is we have this little hump here at the end that goes up and down. So that creates a problem for us because I want to keep obviously the shocks and everything for the rear axle at this same exact height, which means I need everything to be based off of this plane here. So I'm going to have to cut I believe this whole part off. So this is what my plan is with this truck. I think I'm going to cut here and here and take this nice big long section, and I'm going to cut off here, and I'm going to somehow get that big long straight section from the center to fit here. So at that point I'll have the pinch points on the front and the rear cut off, so I won't have to worry about them being pinched down or anything. I can set these at, you know, whatever distance I want, because this plate won't be here in the middle, and I can extend this off the back a good section amount, so I still have a spot for mount the bumper. I can trim it down if I need to, and I have plenty of room to get this axle positioned where I want it. So there is a metal upgrade that we did get, and that is this guy here. It does also flip the steering servo to a straight position, which is also supposed to help out. So we're going to install that on the new one, or on our old faithful down there, when we are good and ready and going together. The other thing is the drivetrain. I haven't talked much about my plans on the drivetrain. I do have a great idea, and it sort of involves what's already set up on here. Obviously this is the donor, so we aren't going to be doing it on this truck, but we can use this truck and sort of get an idea of what I want to do. So we're going to have this transmission still, and instead of coming out and going to this transfer case, we're going to actually replace this transfer case with this transfer case. This transfer case I am going to have to modify a little bit before we go putting it in. I'm going to switch this single post one to the middle, so that and it's going to sit right in here in the same exact spot. So the drive shaft's going to go off, and it's going to go to the middle, which will be the single post, and that's going to give us 2 shafts off the front and 2 shafts going to the rear that all spin in the same direction, so like it is now. So that should then give us our drive to the rear. Now our problem is, at that point, is getting the power from this transfer case to the rear axle, because it's going to be hanging out way back here. So our solution for that is this guy here. It's basically a little carrier bearing for Lesu, I believe Lesu semis, but either way we're going to make it work. At this point I'm going to start cutting. We're going to get those cut off. We're going to get the transmission out of here, all these other extra bits off. So basically I'm going to get down to just the frame, and we'll get back to you when I am at just the frame. So after a whole lot of screws, we are at the frame rails, our drive shafts, the rear axle, and shock mounts that we need. So after assessing this some more, and looking at it, I think we have a very good plan moving forward. So we can take that nice long straightaway, we can add it into the back portion here. Like I said, we'll chop this off nice and straight so those will butt right up to it. And we have a couple options as far as getting this to mount in. This is a C channel, so my first idea is to try and possibly weld it. I have a real small welder. It's a real low amp welder that should work perfect on this, but my only, let's see here, is it metal? Yep, it is metal. So I should be able to weld that without a problem, and I can do it on the inside, make it nice and clean, and hopefully make it so you can't even see it from the outside. Biggest thing is going to be making sure the rail is nice and straight when I'm done welding, so it doesn't create a weak point. The other thing too might be getting some sort of a bar to go on the inside of the C channel back here to sort of help reinforce that and make that a little bit longer. The only downside of that would be adding weight to the rear, and also it would make it so if I had to drill a hole or use one of these holes, I would have to actually drill through that piece to add in there. So a couple different things, a couple different options, but I think we are well on our way to a good start to making this 6x6 happen. So I think that's going to wrap it up for us today. Welding those frame rails, getting that cut and extended, that's something I'm going to have to take my time on, and I don't really want to have to worry about the camera and everything else, and honestly I don't think it's going to be that interesting anyways. So next time we come back, we're going to have an extended frame, and we're going to be figuring out how we're going to mount these rear links. The biggest issue I think so far is going to be getting the heights right and the links in the spots that we want. From there, it's just going to be a matter of powering that rear axle and then moving on to somehow making a body that's going to fit. I've been thinking of cutting it here. What do you guys think? Cut it here and flatbed it, or somehow find another green body and maybe extend it out so we have a very long International Scout? I'm not sure. You guys leave your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. What should I do? Should I make this a truck, an extra long truck bed, make this a flatbed, or make this an extra long Scout body, full limo style? That's gonna end it for us here. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next build.